Hello everyone. Welcome to this very new session of the Global Eye Initiative. This is our podcast, and with us today we have Rishya. And firstly, I would like to welcome you, Rishya, and I would love for you to give us a brief introduction about yourself.
Hi everyone, I am Rishya Dharmani. I am a geopolitical intelligence analyst with Global Eye, and I'm also pursuing my PhD in strategic studies from Punjab University. I'm basically working on IndoSpheric Kootneeti and how Indic strategic culture can be advanced given India's quest for regional power status.
Thank you, Rishya. Just to give a brief introduction, the topic that we are looking into today with Rishya is that recently China has declared two new counties in the region of Xinjiang. So, we would like to start off with knowing what expertise does Rishya hold regarding this and what was the reasons that prompted Rishya, ma'am, that prompted you to work towards this particular area.
So currently, my research focus has been on South Asia and especially how geopolitical developments in the larger Indo-Pacific and also the relationship between leading power, that is, South Asia is the site of confrontation between China and US, and India is kind of playing an intermediary role. But we are not trying to become a proxy to again the US-led world order. For example, we are also part of SCO and BRICS. But currently, we also see that China, since it is our neighbor, so we have a different kind of relationship that United States would have with China, for instance. And in this case, so this news for us, which we are going to discuss today, is that Chinese government has declared two new counties in the Xinjiang Autonomous Region, which is a restive region of China and also where the China-Pakistan economic corridor starts. So it has a lot of great implications for South Asian region and world politics in general.
Sure. That brings us about the overall impact of China in this particular region as a South Asia as a whole, as well as China's rising geopolitical importance. So, initially and at the beginning of the session, we would like to start off by how these new counties have been proposed by CCP and what are the exact bureaucratic decisions that has been made. Regarding that, how the administrative structure as well as the governance structure have prompted this decision, and what have these decisions led to the perception towards the Uyghur minorities.
Sure. So, as you are all aware, China is a unitary one-party state where Communist Party of China dominates all. It has usurped all kind of political power from the central to the local level. The Communist Party organization is the one that dominates governance, and in this case, the central party association and also the local party association has declared in the Xinjiang Autonomous Region two new administrative counties. Now, to understand that, we need to refer to the administrative structure in China. So first there is the central or the unitary level. Then we have 23 different provinces. Then we have 5 autonomous regions. And there are also several other other administrative bodies. But for our purposes, Xinjiang is an autonomous region out of these 5, which implies that apart from the regular powers that a normal province gets, it has certain other special legislative powers also. But this is the misnomer because Xinjiang is inhabited by the Uyghur Muslims who until recently formed a majority in that province, but acculturation and forceful resettlement program where the Han majority from Chinese are for being re-established here. This demographic change is happening. So to quell all the restive features in the minority community, China has been institutionalizing several labor camps. It has been accused by European Union and other Western powers of committing crimes against humanity and also genocide. So to control this kind of instability in situation, this measure has been taken. Another reason for this measure could also be that since currently we find that the relations between China and Pakistan are not very good on this CPEC corridor because a lot of Chinese engineers and professionals are being killed by militants from both Afghanistan and Pakistan, because it passes through the restive region of Balochistan, where all this autonomistic and secessionist movements are happening. So these two developments could have probably prompted this kind of reorganization. And thirdly, I would also mention that these two new counties, which are the Heian and Hekang counties, are found in the LAC. I mean, across the LAC in the Aksai region, which China has illegally occupied from India.
All right. And when we talk about the establishment of these two new counties, what kind of a political structure can we expect, and how that particular political, bureaucratic, as well as judicial structure in these new counties, these new two administrative units, how would that change for the new population or the existing population of those particular areas?
Okay, so on the broader level, not much is going to change because the basic administrative apparatus remains the same. And I was reading a research paper on how the actual administration is carried out in these regions. So basically, as I mentioned, the Han population is being resettled here. All the important government positions and even the important jobs are only given to the majority population. Since this region is geopolitically and domestically important and domestically restive, so and also since it has lot of natural resources and lot of I think there are three major Chinese air bases present here. So important political, economic, military positions do not go to the local populations because they are not trusted by the Chinese authorities. In fact, there are large internment camps where forceful labor is being carried out.
All right. So, just a last follow-up question regarding this particular issue. How do you think the overall perception towards Uyghurs would improve in the current geopolitical scenario with respect to the migration as well as the refugee crisis that this particular area suffers with the advancement of these two new counties?
Okay, so one important factor we need to consider is that despite the fact that China has promoted an idea of normalcy and for law and order in this region, everything is obviously not normal. And the level of reprisal that the local population faces is equivalent to what Jews faced under Nazi Germany, and this has been recognized even by the United Nations Human Rights Body, which in 2022 came out with a very damning report on the level of discrimination, systematic persecution that people face, especially forced sterilization camps that women have. So both United States, several Western countries like United States, UK, Canada have come up with their own laws. So, for example, in 2023, the Biden government came up with a Xinjiang supply chain business advisory in which all the businesses and firms were advised to follow risk due diligence, and there were import controls where important products from Xinjiang, for example, as I mentioned earlier, the textile is an important export item from Xinjiang. Then it is a very resource-rich region. So it is very important. It's very fundamental fact that China is a global power in producing solar panels. So most of the silicon wafers are actually produced in Xinjiang, and that is why India is now getting a lot of opportunities to export solar panels to Western countries because they have imposed import restrictions on the silicon wafers being produced in Xinjiang. So it again, domestic problems also have a lot of geopolitical implications.
Sure, thank you. As you have mentioned India as well, so building upon that, India has already had its border concern with respect to China, as you already mentioned that these two new counties being fairly close to LAC. How does these two new counties and this particular development build up or create a problem for India-China relations, and on a very broader as well as micro perspective?
Okay. Here I would refer to the heartland of Asia theory, in which basically the Central Asian region was considered to be the seat of geopolitical power. Okay, given the maritime focus on Indo-Pacific or maybe even the South China Sea or Gulf region, we are bound to forget the importance of centrality of continental politics. But Xinjiang region then refocuses our attention to it. Xinjiang in Mandarin means a borderland or a new frontier, and it is a gateway for China to access the Central Asian and Caucasus region, also an access to Iran and broader South Asia, because that provides access to China to the South Asian region and the Indian Ocean particularly, seen in the context of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is a part of BRI, which starts in Kashgar region in Xinjiang itself. So that is the first geopolitical importance of Xinjiang. Secondly, as I mentioned, it is a very resource-rich region, and China has established a lot of manufacturing plants for textile, solar panels, aluminium, and other industrial commodities. There are a lot of Xinjiang is a very arid region and inhospitable. It has a lot of inhospitable conditions. But China has focused on massive irrigation projects. Again, one of the dams was also in question in news recently on the Yarlung Sangpo River. That is not in Xinjiang. That is in Tibet. But the point is that China has drastically modified the geography of this region, and has had huge hydropower and solar projects also. So it has a lot of stakes in Xinjiang. And thirdly, Xinjiang is also very important militarily. There are 3 important air bases here in Hotan, Kashgar, and Nagai Gungsa. And Hotan prefecture is where these 2 new counties have been made. The counties which impinge on India's territorial integrity, which are part of the occupied Ladakh, and these places are where advanced Chinese aircrafts like X-6 bomber, J-10 and J-6 are also stationed. Lastly, Xinjiang itself is a very restive region because the Muslim minority has been persecuted for very long, and East Turkestan Islamic movement has been suppressed. But basically, the point was that since the Cultural Revolution during the time of Mao Zedong, the government has been trying to suppress all the ethnic minorities, all the 55 recognized ethnic minorities in China, and by establishing the dominance of the Han majority. And there is a strike hard policy that the Chinese government imposes against these minority groups, both in the Inner Mongolia region and also within Xinjiang.
Alright, so that gave us a key insight about how important this particular area is for China, and how the political advancement in this particular area, be it in terms of making 2 new counties or in future making more administrative units, how does these particular moves affect China's relationship with India?
First, as I said, it affects territorial integrity of India, and we also have to question the integrity of Chinese advances on the recent special representative talks between the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and his Chinese counterpart, whether China is really intent on building peace and maintaining status quo at the border. So even the CDS Anil Chauhan he has mentioned in a lot of his media interaction that we need to be cautious about this peace initiative and maintain our point. Secondly, we also have to see this in the context of larger Chinese salami slicing policies and aggrandizement policies in its own maritime and also territorial neighborhood. In Arunachal Pradesh, when it claims Arunachal Pradesh, it is establishing Xiaokang or model villages, again where the Han-dominated population is forcibly dislocating the local population and creating a sense of normalcy and development around the region.
All right. On a very separate note, I would like to ask about the fact that there is one prevalent policy with regards to China called as the wolf warrior diplomacy. Do you think this particular move has anything to do with that policy of China?
The wolf warrior the policy of China is basically the aggressive policy that in the past few years Chinese diplomats used to display in several international organizations. It is a policy which was inaugurated under the presidency of Xi Jinping, in which China played this victim mentality that it is being, because it is a rising power and so-called leader of global south, it is being targeted by the established Western hegemons and also the so-called guardians of the rule-based international order. And under this policy, China has had a two-pronged policy. First is it targets and castigates, and also establishes punitive sanctions against countries which recognize Taiwan. So this policy was questioned during the 2022 embargo, which was imposed on Australia by China, and also on certain Central European states who recognize Taiwan and criticized China for its discriminatory policies. Also in South China Sea, the gunboat diplomacy that it usually deploys. after this victimhood card recently has failed, China has been now making rapprochement given the Donald Trump presidency. So it remains to be seen whether there is a real change of heart in China, or whether it will actually become a responsible partner, a responsible state in the global order.
So, one of the key allegations that regarding this particular two new counties, specifically in Xinjiang region, that allegation could easily be claimed by China as an intervention by the West in their particular domestic policies. And as you said, that their wolf warrior diplomacy policy is majorly related to the international system. So, how do these two parallels connect with respect to the current developments in the Xinjiang?
Okay, so the context of Xinjiang is basically unique because the local population has not been treated by the Chinese as its own citizens. It has not been given rights, it has been denied autonomy and basically a meaningful human existence. So the situation of Xinjiang, the Uyghur Muslims, is similar to the Rohingya people in Myanmar, or maybe the Jews in Nazi Germany, where the state itself turned against its own citizens. And given the current status of international humanitarian law, where there is a concept called right to protect, which is R2P, basically the security that we are considering here is not that of the state, but that of the people inhabiting the state. So human security or individual security or the security of the group is more important. And China has been conducting crimes against humanity. It has been violating several international laws here. Especially the law, the Human Rights Convention, and it has been, as I mentioned before, it has been conducting crimes against humanity and genocide there. So it has to face, I mean, it is a double standard of the Western community that it is not recognizing the discrimination faced by Uyghur Muslims, but in the neighboring Afghanistan, people are talking about how women are being denied rights, but this a systematic basically erasure of a community's existence and its rights is not being discussed or talked about.
All right, that just explains it all. So, one of my last questions regarding this topic would be, how have international organizations and West, specifically the USA, in the context of Trump 2.0, would view this declaration of two new counties in Xinjiang? And is there any recent development regarding that? If not, how would the West look into these new developments?
So basically, the human rights-based approach was it was followed by the previous democratic president. So we cannot be expecting President Trump to be carrying on this troupé. But again, since President Trump promised that he would be imposing 100% tariffs on China, and this would obviously give a good reason for him, a good excuse for him to impose that, and he can satisfy both the constituencies over here, his own domestic Republican constituency, and also the basically the human rights and other organizations. Currently, if I were to speak about different measures that the Western countries and the US itself have been taking against Xinjiang, again the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act in 2021 created an entity list in which it was recognized that a state entity in Xinjiang, that is Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps, was behind all these forced labor camps where people were being forcefully made to cultivate and live there, and I mean their homes and their mosques and all the cultural identifiers were destroyed. So that has been recognized in the legal systems of United States, Canada, UK and other states, and also, as I mentioned, there was a UN human rights report on this. And even the European Union has been slow to catch up, but there are a lot of measures by European Commission on this regard to stop the imports from Xinjiang and not promote reprisals there.
All right. That just, I believe, explains it all. Thank you for joining, ma'am, today. It was great to have these particular insights regarding this topic from you. And we would hope to catch up on you with new current developments with regards to China as well as other geopolitical important issues. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. It was great talking to you.